And sometimes they're scared of, you know, that they shouldn't be doing this, and people are going to get angry at them, and it's very complicated. And I don't know.
If I could add a little bit to this, I think there's sort of like a historic issue here. Within the law for antiquities, the antiquities law of Egypt, photography is not part of that. So I think from the beginning there's been a disregard for this part of the heritage. Add to that there is no real documentation for the photographic history, the practice of photography. This is something that we're working on as a collectively, a number of people. So there's no real conservation, conservators, a group of a center for conservation or anything like that. Ibrahim, inshallah, when he graduates, he will be the second, number 2 in Egypt, in the whole country, 2 photographic conservators. No one who's interested in collection management, no one who really understands how to go into it, finding materials to save it. People who document it, like someone like me, who come up with some kind of a system or a science or a logic to document the artifact or the history. If we talk about researchers or the market, I don't know, maybe I can pull Lucy to comment about market, photo market in Egypt. It's a big deal. So there's a value, there's a monetary handling of photography, and yet there's a discrediting of it at the same time. And then there's this paranoid obsession with holding on to the knowledge. How knowledge is power.
It's almost like photographs are sometimes viewed as the value, that their value is in what they show in the image, in the information. So the photograph is not an object, is not valued for being an object, but it's valued for being, for giving you this information or that image or whatever. So that's the danger in digitization also, is that then the digital print just completely replaces the original, because it doesn't matter as an object, you know what I mean?
And we met someone recently who'd been digitizing الصور, and he threw out the numbers.
Wow.
It's not useful for him. It's the digital image that he can resell, sell, and claims ownership. So we lose the context of the making of the artifact, the photographer, the biographic information, the historic context in which it was created, etc. We lose all of that. It becomes just, a historic image of, I don't know, the Muslim or whatever, and just resold and resold.
I'm very curious about the issue of law. I wonder if it's a horse and cart kind of situation. Do you suppose that the underdevelopment, the obvious underdevelopment of the field of the conservation of photography field, in comparison to other historic documents, the conservation of other historic documents, do you think it's related to an underdevelopment of that law as well? If there is, I guess my question has to do with legislative reform. Do you think there is room for legislative reform to kind of help that small, tiny little pot of experts to develop it more?
I don't know, maybe because you deal more with antiquities, maybe you can answer that.
As I told you, I think that's a solution for developing the situation. I think it will be with the private institutions. The private institution is a key for the developing the situation for the conservation and the preservation of photographic heritage, as the example of the Arab Image Foundation. It's a private institution, and they can get a funding from different sources, and then they can do different activities and projects, and they developing the preservation and conservation activities in their country.
And then they're prosecuted. So I mean, it's again a legislative problem. I mean, receiving funding now is a problem already. So I guess I'm still focusing on that little, I'm still fixated on that small issue of the law specifically. If there is room for the antiquities law to be reformed, or actually a completely new law of conservation.
We have several, but we like the applications. We can have several rules, but we like the application. I think the rules is not the key. The application and the practice is the key. If we have a practice for the conservation and preservation, and we raise the awareness between people, it's a solution. And if we raise the awareness, as we talk, between people with social activities and different activities, it will be the solution, not the rules. I think we have several rules, 5 of rules.
Yeah, I don't know if photography within the mandate and the reach of Supreme Council of Antiquities. I don't know if that's the solution, but that's the way to go. And then if we rely on private stakeholders, it's a lot also. I think archives in general are always an underfunded and difficult task.
The Mahmoud Saleh collection, who is he archiving it for? Is it just for personal, or does he want to open it up for the public?
He does want to open it up. I mean, it's not going very fast, that process. That's his idea and intent. He wants to create a foundation board and create like a structure within which people can access the material. The problem is, well, there's various problems, but one is that he has to do all of that, and the other is that the archive itself the collection itself has to be archived, and I'm the only one helping at the moment, and I don't have that much time, and it's going quite slowly. But I hope to get to the point where everything is, available to people. I mean, I think that there's the part that I'm working on now is just the immediate sort of emergency situation of getting the photographs and the negatives into a place where they won't be damaged anymore and when they won't continue to deteriorate rapidly. Most are actually in pretty good condition, but then there's the other issue of creating an interface so people can search for photographs. You can, the archiving part of it. I mean, we've done some of that, but I think it's going to be a slow process. Now, I can't speak for him in terms of letting people in now, but I think he's, generally open to people who are curious about the archive, the collection. Yeah.
Any more questions or comments? Maybe we can start looking at resource stuff that we have. If you could open one of the links, or the graphics atlas, or whichever one.
See if I can. Oh yeah, the graphics atlas is already open. Yeah, this is a perhaps you could just go down a little bit further and then just press the little video.
Yeah, the video. Just press the video. Anyways, this is a website. We're just going to show you some of the resources that we have here at CIC, and sort of a combination between here at CIC and at Cultnat in the Smart Village. This is a website called Graphics Atlas, and it was made by the Image Permanence Institute and the George Easton House, and a kind of collaboration. So it's many years of training of conservators and working in lab situations. They put together kind of a matrix or database of all of the different photographic materials and how to identify them. So this is available as an online resource for anyone who has a collection. You can start going through your own collection and by starting to identify what are the different techniques that you have in your collection, and then how to care for them later. So there's all kinds of links that are off of this website to printed material that you can read. And then there's also, if you go, these are really great, these little video things where you can actually see glare, you can actually see the surface of materials. If you go up to just maybe up to the top of the,
Where?
I think you can, if you, identification. You can select a process and it will take you to there, but there's a timeline. Maybe go back to compare or there's a timeline of photography that's available on this site. Identification guided to just off of identification. Is it working? And so these are all of the different processes. If you press on each one, it'll give you another sub list. And then there's a timeline. I do it on my own. I can get to the timeline. It's like
it tracks some processes like the blue type.
Yeah. But there's a number of sites that you can start to compare. Anyways, this is a really good kind of workhorse site that we use. What about any of the other ones?
Yeah. And I didn't, just as a note, the archive survey that I contributed to, if you Google speak, memory, you'll find it in there, and that might be useful.
We'll have it here.
Okay.
And the survey that we're working on at CultNet also will eventually be online too. Okay, go ahead.
So you can, this is for more advanced resources, I think. And they have obviously different, not just photography, but other kinds of conservation work as well. Photographic materials here. So it's worth checking out once you get a bit deeper into it.
Actually, there's a limited number of photoconservators worldwide, and they tend to know each other, and they have conferences, and it's a small group, and only a certain number are graduated every year from specific schools. So I had a chance to meet some of them 2 years ago, and I have some of, I could just go this way to show you some material. There's some material that we have here that was produced by these groups, and these are basically their scientific approaches and experiments. So they show each other. The conferences are like showings for different discoveries that they've made, or questions that they have, or exhibitions that they've managed, or severe damage cases that they want to talk about. So these materials are here. This one is specifically deals with contemporary materials. It's very important for contemporary artists who work in photography and photographic materials. So it goes through printing techniques and the conservation of them. What are some of the considerations that museums have when they collect the work of contemporary artists? So it's digital prints in here as well as mounting. techniques.
And inkjet.
And these are all archival, for archival, inkjet. All about inkjet. All kinds of different kinds of inkjet. And laser and lambda, etc., etc.
There's also